This is Kwame Carr from the Turnaround Principals channel on YouTube. And today we're going to be talking about things the principal must do prior to the beginning of the school year. It's now July, about to be August. And principals, particularly if you're new, you need to set your school year up so you can play more offense than you play defense, because there's nothing worse than getting behind and not being able to catch up because you are unaware. And sometimes as new principals, we don't know everything we don't know until it's time to know. But fortunately, I'm going to give you about 36 or more things that I learned as a principal that I needed to have at the beginning of the year. These will be in no particular order. Here's the list. Number one, provide teachers a checklist on what a successful teaching year looks like. Everyone wants a great or at least a good evaluation at the end of the school year. So what does that look like, from instruction to any organizational things that you may require to any operational things you may require of teachers during the school year? Provide that to them up front. What will your sneaker peek look like? What are your expectations when parents come in? How do you want the flow of the building to run? That is something that you need to think about in advance. What are some work rules? Where do you want teachers to report for duty? How long do you want them on duty? All of those things, any rules that you have in place that may not have been in place before, or if you just want to reinforce what was in place before, they need to know those rules. Priority number one, master schedule. Make sure the master schedule is intact. That needs to be done this week, if possible. What administrative game coverage plan do you have, especially if you're in middle and high school? Who's going to cover which games and at what times are they expected to be there and for how long? Publish a staff list. You're going to have teachers being hired. You're going to have teachers that leave, and everyone needs to be in the know about replacements and who's responsible for what and what their duties are. What is the opening of your school day projected to look like based on your action plan? What is your action plan for the opening of school? You're going to have new students coming in. They're going to need transportation. They're going to need schedules. They're going to need lunch information, and your front office is going to be engaged. And you're going to have a lot of movement the first week or maybe 2 weeks of school. And what does that look like? How are you going to maintain your culture from August, potentially all the way through May? What protocols do you have in place for the adults in the building that are going to help you maintain from August to May? Some teachers will need to know the essential duties of the principal. This is also a good reminder to all of the staff. What does the principal do versus what teachers have to do? What are the protocols for absences, and how do teachers make an absence in the absence system, whatever that may be? Do they call the principal or do they call someone else? I would recommend they call the principal. Simply cuts down on a lot of absences, works every time. What is the pre-planning agenda? Teachers are wondering, what are we going to be doing during pre-planning? Go ahead and publish that information. What is the daily schedule for the school going to look like? Block scheduling, traditional scheduling, how long is lunch period? What are the expectations around the school day? Share your vision with the community and especially with your school, letting the teachers and staff know your vision. Be very transparent and upfront about that. How are you going to make disciplinary decisions? Does a counselor handle it? Does a teacher handle it? Or does an administrator handle it? Those need to be well defined. How are you going to assign keys and organize keys, and who's responsible for the distribution and collection of those keys? Be transparent about any changes you're going to make. If there's some major change coming down the pipe that you've been given for the school, or that you're just going to make because you're the principal, what is that change or changes, and be transparent before the school year starts. What are your afternoon announcements or morning announcements going to look like, and how do teachers get information to the school? Provide statistics to the school based on your socio-economically disadvantaged students, your students with disabilities, your EL students, or any students that may be struggling. Provide that data up front so that you know what you have to tackle. A welcome back letter is a necessity. A lot of principals use email to do that, but there's nothing like that good old hard copy mail that comes in the mailbox welcoming teachers back to school. What is the leave policy for the county? They need to know that. So personal leave requests or extended leave requests or any of those leave requests can be obtained from the board policy. Also read your board policy so that you're not out of line. Anything and any decisions that you make need to be aligned to board policy. What kind of administrative assignments and duties are you going to divvy to your respective assistant principals or assistant principal? They need to know what their duties are and what you expect them to do during the school year. What is the emergency coverage plan when teachers are absent? Teachers are going to be absent. Sometimes you don't have a substitute. How are you going to handle that in a fair and equitable manner? What is your lesson plan template going to look like? Is the county going to provide that, or your district, or is that something at the school level? But that needs to be known, provided with the expectations of when they are due. If you're a new principal and you're coming into the building, you of course need to change your letterhead. Change your letterhead, make it look however you want it to look professionally. What is the research on retention? Sometimes you will have a class of students and teachers are struggling with them, but realistically, you can't retain all your kids because they're behind during and after COVID, post-COVID. So provide information to your teachers about retention and how that affects graduation and student motivation, intrinsic motivation at the end of their schooling years. What does the day look like at the end of the day? How are you going to dismiss from school? What is dismissal? Are they going to dismiss from the classroom? Are they going to be collected in a particular environment like a cafeteria or a gymnasium? Whatever that looks like, you need to understand the flow. You need to understand how buses arrive, how parents arrive, how students walk from school, and what that time factor is so that you can be efficient. That's a big deal. Dismissal is a very big deal. Know all of your data for your SWD students, as mentioned, and your EL students and your African American students, SWD being students with disabilities, so that teachers understand where you are as far as your school improvement plan is concerned. What do you want to do on the first days of school and beyond, particularly that first week? What will that look like for the school? How is that going to be set up as parents and students arrive with various needs for cafeteria money, and as they arrive with needs with buses, and they may have some medical issues that need to be tended to? How's the front office going to interact with the staff? Not only the first days of school, but throughout the year. What does the instructional design look like? What instructional design models are you using if you have one in place? What kind of instructional strategies do you expect to see? That needs to be shared. How about testing protocols and procedures, or shortcuts and tips about testing, whether that's standardized testing or testing during regular formative and summative assessments in the classroom? What does that look like? What about curriculum strategies? I may have mentioned that one already. Also, what type of planning process do you have in place? What do you expect teacher planning times to look like? Do you expect them to meet with kids during RTI or MTSS? Do you expect them to meet collaboratively to discuss the standards and the scope and sequence and to make sure everyone's on the same page and prepare for the next assessment? And what does the discipline process look like? What are your requirements around discipline? Meaning, for example, if they are considered minor infractions, will you require teachers to call parents and let them know that the student is receiving a referral? Or are you going to handle all of those from the administrative standpoint? These are some of the things that you need to consider as you enter into the principalship. Even if you are a veteran principal, implementing these will help you along the way during the school year. It provides transparency, it provides communication, and it makes your year much easier. And they get easier and easier as time goes on throughout the years, because everyone will be on the same page. I hope this video was helpful. I was reading this information from my book, Turnaround Principles for Turnaround Principals, which you can find on Amazon.com. In the search box, just type my name, Kwame Carr. Again, I am from the Principals School Turnaround channel. Thank you.